Morning, this is Brian. Today is Wednesday, September 11, 2024, and I'm here at Black Mountain Park here near Rancho Penasquitos and Rancho Bernardo in San Diego. It is time for a long-awaited episode of Trees of San Diego. So what is my focus today on this episode? The very interesting, beautiful African sumac, Cearcia lancea, formerly and still sometimes known by others as Rhus lancea. So, African sumac is a small evergreen-leafed tree, sometimes a large thicket-forming shrub, and it is a member of the cashew family, the Anacardiaceae. And as its common name and its former name, Rhus lancea, and African sumac imply, it is related to the true sumacs in the genus Rhus. And I will be pointing out a couple of its relatives that are in this area. So this is a tree that's native to South Africa, I believe. South Africa. I could be a little more, maybe a little bit more detailed on the screen, but it is a pretty beautiful, delicate looking tree. But don't let its looks fool you. This is a very resilient tree. These trees are known to, as you see here, sprout from their roots. This is all genetically identical material to this tree here. These are root shoots, or aka suckers. So these trees can also be shrubs, large shrubs, as you can see, because they do have a propensity to send up root shoots. And that's probably what this is right here. So what's in a name? The name Lancea refers to the very narrow leaflets of this tree. As you see here, there are three leaflets, trifoliate. They got three leaflets on them. Three very narrow lanceolate leaflets. So this three-leaf thing, that's a whole leaf. So that's a leaf. Those are leaflets. See, they kind of have a nice, kind of oily, shiny green color to them. Kind of a very nice, willowy texture that lends an air of elegance and delicateness, which is again offset by its true nature being a very tough, resilient plant that is resistant to both drought, heat, and also just straight being chopped down. So if you chop down one of these trees and you don't remove the roots, you will get suckers coming up. And that's what these are called, root shoots or suckers. So what are some other features of Cearcia lancea? I'm going to go ahead and get a couple pictures, and then I'm going to go into some more features of this plant after I change the batteries on my camera. So I'm going to go over to this small grove of them. This is where I took my thumbnail picture, my cover picture. So these ones are planted like a small grove. So let's go look at a few other features of this tree. So we got this beautiful grayish furred bark with a little bit of light reddish brown inside the furrows. And the branches on these trees usually start pretty low, just barely above my head. And this is maybe about 6'5" off of the ground. The tree's branches start very low, and they have a very contorted branching structure, which is not unlike a lot of plants in the Anacardiaceae, or the sumac / cashew family. And you see these trees here, and they often have a lean in their trunk too. That's one thing you'll notice. A lot of times they will have a lean. This one leans, that one leans, this one leans, most of these are actually leaning. And that's pretty common for, say, Arcea lancea. And they just have a very beautiful branching structure. However, as you see here, they do tend to cross and rub up against each other. So when I go into, well, I want to go into that, meaning you're going to definitely want to watch out when you garden with these trees to make sure that this doesn't happen too much. It could affect the health of the tree. Branches could rub up against one another and potentially cause branch failure and maybe open wounds that might hurt the trees. As you see it here, the branches contort and twist over one another, and sometimes they'll actually fuse together. This one over here looks like it kind of fused together. So that's one thing to look out for in African sumac, is just for the better health of the tree, and this is for general practices. Make sure you keep an eye and make sure the branches don't cross and rub up against each other too much, so the tree has room to grow and not have to worry about being susceptible to open branch wounds. But again, a very beautiful branching structure, and then you get this broad, sometimes broader than high crown of very beautiful foliage, sometimes upright, as you see here, and then portions of the branches will hang down and create a little bit of a weeping effect, a slight weeping effect. So overall, very handsome tree. But what other features of this plant can we use to help identify? Well, we talked about the rough furrowed bark with the reddish brown inside of the furrows, and then the trifoliate leaves with 3 leaflets that are lanceolate shaped. As you can see, 1, 2, 3 leaflets. But these plants are also known for their flowers and their fruit. Now the flowers are usually in the spring months, and they're more of a greenish color and kind of inconspicuous. But they form on these small panicle-like clusters, and they do produce a fair amount of pollen. So people who suffer from pollen allergies might not want to have this growing, but then when it's done flowering, then it develops these small berry-like drupes that start off kind of green, then they turn yellow. They almost look like pepper tree fruits, and they're related to the pepper trees in the genus Scinis. So this one's kind of slightly resembling the Peruvian pepper tree Scinis mole. You can refer to my Trees of San Diego County episode back from January, where I talk about the Peruvian pepper tree, and you can see what the features of that plant are. And from a distance, they do look kind of similar to these African sumacs. So you can see these clusters of brown, dried up drupes. However, pepper tree fruits usually turn red when they're ripe. These ones usually turn a golden yellow before they dry up. They're these rounded drupes, and fairly easy to reproduce and pretty easily germinate. So I'm going to go over to some more trees here, and we're going to look at some more close-ups of the fruit. So yeah, this is kind of an up-close of what the drupes look like. They're kind of rounded. They're kind of fleshy they're kind of fleshy as they ripen, and then they dry out very readily. And you can see there are a lot of old drupes on this plant here. Here we go. Whole rounded drupes that are yellow when they ripen, but now these are all dry and old. And then when they dry, they kind of look like pepper tree fruits. They're all wrinkled and shriveled. So, again, another similarity to the related pepper trees. Here's a better view right here of the drupes. And again, you can see this in a panicle-like cluster. So the flowers are in a panicle-like cluster in the springtime. And in summer and fall, summer and fall, you get these beautiful yellow drupes that are very handsome. And you can see this one's got a lot of old drupes in them as well. A lot of old drupes. So again, here's one with a slightly straighter trunk, but even this one's relatively straight. But again, this is a beautiful rugged branching structure. So, as with a lot of related trees like pepper trees, Scinis, like Scinis terebinthifolia and Scinis mole, Scinis polygama, those are three ornamental relatives that are planted here. Sometimes the roots can be a little invasive, so that's one thing to watch out as you're gardening with this tree. And not a lot is going to grow underneath these because the fact that the roots are very tenacious, again, and again, invasive. So gardening underneath them is going to be very challenging. And again, set up these roots very prolifically. So just watch out for that. And sometimes their roots can also potentially raise up if not watered deeply enough and create little mounds and hills. But it hasn't really deterred people from using these as street trees because they're small. They usually fit underneath telephone wires because these trees are small enough that you can plant these on the sides of roads. So you see, these wires are pretty high up, and the branches of this tree are low. So a very handsome tree, and can be a very common street tree. I used to live in North Orange County, over in Buena Park, and there was one on the little strip of land between the sidewalk and my street, and we had one of these in front of my house. And occasionally I would get seedlings popping up on my patio because I used to garden with tons of plants, and I'd get seedlings occasionally. So yeah. So of course, another thing you want to look out for, these do produce a lot of leaf litter, and that's probably another reason why they're extremely difficult to garden underneath. So just be aware of that. They will require quite a bit of maintenance for cleaning, but again, they produce a very nice cooling shade. There are a lot of pros to having this tree around. Nice cooling shade, beautiful form, small manageable size. So if you have a small area, you should be able to get away with planting these and have no problem. Tough, heat tolerant, little chill tolerant. I wouldn't plant these in the mountains, that's for sure, or too far inland where it gets below freezing a lot at night. But here, coastal and lower foothills here in Southern California, great street tree, great shade, just a lot of leaf litter. Roots do produce a lot of shoots. So, I mentioned that this is in the cashew family, and it used to be known as Rhus lancea. So what does that mean? Because I was mentioning that we do have related natives here, and they are right in this general area. So let's go look at one of them here. This is another Anacardiaceae. This is the native laurel sumac, and this is Malosma laurina, laurel sumac. And this is actually a relative of the African sumac, but this is a native. And also, like African sumac, it used to be known as being in the genus Rhus. It used to be known as Rhus laurina until more DNA analysis revealed that it had a little bit more of a distant relationship from Rhus than previously thought, and it was assigned in its own genus, Malosma. So this is a relative. And similarly, its flowers and fruits are in panicles, and they're drupes. that are in these panicles. Only these fruits are a lot tinier on laurel sumac. And we do have another relative here. And that is lemonade berry, Rhus integrifolia. And it's still in the genus Rhus. So this is a true sumac. This might not be what you picture if you live back east and you have these staghorn and smooth sumacs with these huge pinnately compound leaves that turn fire red in October and are leafless in the winter. This is an evergreen simple-leafed large shrub. And again, Rhus integrifolia. This is a sumac, a true sumac. Another name for this is lemonade sumac. Mostly called lemonade berry, but also lemonade sumac is another name for this. This is another relative of the African sumac. And this one still is listed in the genus Rhus as being a true sumac. So there you have it. Take another look. We're going to take another picture or two, and then we'll end this video. So yeah, I'm going to basically get ready to wrap this up. Let's just go walk by a couple more, just kind of enjoy the beauty that these trees possess. And here's a cool juxtaposition. African sumac, lemonade sumac, or lemonade berry. So, Rhus integrifolia, Sayarsia lancea, aka Rhus lancea. Laurel sumac, Melasma laurina, formerly Rhus laurina. So there you have it. Cool, interesting African sumac here in San Diego. And this is going to end my Trees of San Diego episode. Thanks for watching. Hope you found it informative and interesting, and get you out there to check out some of these trees for yourself. And if you have room and don't mind not having a lot of space to garden underneath, plant one for yourself and enjoy the shade. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another episode.